All right, we are here with Daniel Solis, game designer. Daniel, why don't you tell us about your new game that you're releasing?
The newest game is Junk Orbit from Renegade Games, where you're picking up trash from around Earth's orbit and delivering it to the Moon and Mars so they can build their cities. My most notable game is probably Kodama the Tree Spirits for indie boards and cards, where you're growing a tree as a home for happy little tree spirits.
Great. And how do people get your new game, or is it out now? Or
Yeah, both of them have been out for a while.
Okay, great.
Junk Orbit, is it mostly pick up and deliver one of the main mechanisms of it, or what would you say?
It's a pick up and deliver, but it uses orbital mechanics. So you're actually following the orbits and trying to slingshot between the Moon, Earth, and Mars, and you make these kind of cool figure eight shapes. But the real hook of it is that you, instead of an engine, you're kind of a broke ship. So you launch cargo out the backside. It goes a certain distance, and your ship moves forward that same distance. And so that leaves behind things for other people to pick up along the way. So it's this very silly Newtonian physics sort of thing. I never mentioned the Newtonian physics part of it because people just sort of inherently kind of understand. Launch it out the backside, go forward.
Pushes you forward.
Yeah, and then you just kind of follow the figure eight patterns along the board.
About how long does it take to play it?
That is probably like a 30-minute game, roughly. Depends on player count. Can go to like 25. But yeah, it's a pretty tight little.
So for somebody like me that is a high frontier junkie, would this
You know what game we're talking about?
I'm not familiar.
This is the Phil Eklund, launch ships from Earth, get them to Jupiter.
Phil Eklund, I spent 30 years studying
actual rocket science.
Actual rocket science, and so
Yes.
I'm going to create a game that approximates that, and nobody can play.
A map full of what, Lagrange points?
Yes.
I am using Lagrange points, but this is a much more abstracted game. It's way more abstracted.
I would love that to be the filler game we play right before we play High Frontier. I think it's fantastic.
It'll definitely get you in the mood. It's an appetizer. Good pairing.
Daniel, one of the other reasons that we wanted to interview you is that last week on our podcast, we had a question from an audience member that was asking about resources for board game designers people who want to be board game designers.
And Daniel is one.
And Daniel is one of the best resources. What we were saying is, when we talked to you right before we started recording, was that a lot of people out there are giving a lot of theory and a lot of sort of ideas in general. Your advice is so practical and so helpful to board game designers. Can you talk about what you have out there for people that want to design a game?
Sure. Probably the easiest content to find is on YouTube. Search for Card at Work. That is my long-running YouTube series breaking down some details about how to build your prototypes, how to arrange information onto a card so that it's convenient to be held in hand or seen from a distance on a table. And then further on, I go into more detail about actually doing some interesting things with InDesign and some functionality that can make it easier to churn out like a whole deck of cards in just minutes.
That's where I got hung up. Like, I still need to make that leap to InDesign. I think with card design, I'd still end up doing layers and layers of layers on Photoshop, turning things on and off. And InDesign, I assume, is vastly better for that type of thing.
Oh yeah. If you have it all in a spreadsheet, you can send it to InDesign, and it'll make a whole deck in just like a second. It's great.
So is this stuff that you just put together over time in your own designs? Like, what other resources would you recommend for beginning designers for just getting started besides your web?
Oh, sure.
Besides your YouTube channel.
I always recommend going to gameicons.net. That's game-icons.net, and you'll find thousands of really nice vector icons that you can also modify and add color to and add frames to, and download those. And those are fantastic if you're just getting started to make a prototype.
And they're free too.
They're all free.
Yeah,
they're all free. Creative Commons licensed. It's fantastic. If you can't find something there, which is highly unlikely, but if you can't find something there, then you can always go to the Noun project and find more icons there. And those are Creative Commons if there's like an attribution license, or you can purchase them. But yeah, both of those are just kind of invaluable if you're just really needing to put something together as a quick prototype without having to get a lot of expensive art or anything.
Great.
Quick question. What would you say is your favorite game to play? Not something that you've designed, but what are your favorite games to play over the last few years?
The last few years?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I really like Wingspan. Wingspan is sort of a welcome addition to my library. It's a very, very quick play, but it has all the depth that I love to get in an engine builder, but in like half the time. Let's see what else is recent. I really like Rogers of the Ganges. the brands just like knocked it out of the park with that one. I really quite like that. I love the combos you build there. It's less of an engine builder, so much more just you're building up, and then kind of releasing, and then building up, and then kind of run the machine a little bit. Both of those are
They're fantastic. Now, when I asked you that question, you were like, "Oh, recently." Ooh, it sounds like you have like favorites that are old. Is there a game that you would say that this is a game that nobody talks about, but I absolutely love? Because on our podcast, we like to do that. We like to highlight games that are rarely talked about, but are these hidden gems.
Sure. Well, I don't know if it's hidden so much, but the game by far that I play most often with my wife is the iOS app version of Carcassonne. Very specific implementation. It was the very first app I downloaded 12 years ago, and I still have it. We still play it, and it's not obscure by any means, but it is.
So when you and your wife play this, are you on it? How do you actually play it? Are you playing off the same tablet, or are you doing it?
Yeah. And occasionally we record it too. We'll have Sunday brunch while playing, and that's on the YouTube channel too.
Gotcha.
You can find Coffee on Carcassonne. It's just a thing. We just kind of you really shouldn't watch those because that audio is terrible. You hear us chewing. But hey, if you want to watch people play Carcassonne at a high level.
Carcassonne may have more expansions than any other board game in history. How many of them are on the app?
A lot of them. We only play with the first two, Into Cathedrals and Traders and Builders.
Sure.
And a river, just to kind of kick things off.
Which I think is exactly what the gold box edition. That's exactly what that comes with, I believe. Yeah.
I believe so too. I have not had a chance to play any of the variants like Hunters and Gatherers or anything like that. But yeah, if there was one game I played more often, more hours, it's probably that one.
Last question, Daniel. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody that wants to design a board game right now? What would be the thing that you would tell them if somebody just came up to you and say, "Hey, I have an idea for a board game. I'm starting to work on it."
Get it on the table. Get it out of your head. Get it on the table. A minute on the table is worth hours in your head. In terms of getting really good feedback and finding out what is working and what isn't, and then you can improve from there.
Absolutely fantastic advice. Daniel, thank you so much for your time.
Sure thing. Thank you.